This was great. It was an educational opportunity for us. I'm really thankful for the Earhart family and the entire Kohl's operation for letting Sam and I tour today. This was the end result of me coming to speak to the Kohl's annual celebration and awards dinner just a few months ago, when we started talking at that dinner about some of the issues that we're facing in Washington and how they impact their ability to actually hire drivers here. I knew that I had to bring future Chairman of Transportation Sam Graves with me to talk really about what can we do on our committee once we take the majority in November.
And what are some of those things that you guys are hoping to do? What are some of those things that you guys want to achieve?
Well, it's working with companies like Kohl's, who do a lot of in-house training, to figure out how we can get more younger drivers in the seats to be able to participate in a long-term investment in being a driver for facilities like Kohl's. We can also talk about infrastructure investments. We also need to talk about what can we do to reduce the labor shortage we have in America.
Okay, and you mentioned some policies, some federal policies that are kind of affecting Kohl's. What are some of those? Give me an example.
Well, the lack of drivers is an issue that I think is still relative to some of our COVID responses. In the beginning of COVID, we passed a bill that allowed for bonus unemployment. And as a matter of fact, none of us, Republican or Democrat at the time in March of 2020, none of us thought we would ever pay someone more than what they were making in their job to be on unemployment. And then there was a drafting error in the CARES Act. And that drafting error became a hill for many of our Democrat colleagues to die on. And they extended this bonus unemployment, which I think is still exacerbating the issue with workforce right now.
Okay, and then one more question I have, timeline. I know that this is all going to take time. What are we thinking? What's the next step after today?
Well, first off, we as Republicans, we need to win. We've got to win the House back so that Sam Graves can be Chairman of Transportation and Infrastructure. That's when we have the ability to set the agenda. We can then decide who comes and sits at the table at our hearings to tell us what's working and what's not working when it comes to CDL licensing, when it comes to workforce investment programs, when it comes to other issues that we talked about today.
Okay.
Good. Roe versus Wade letter came out. What do you think of the letter, and what is your opinion on the contents of the letter?
Well, I'm proud to be pro-life. I certainly hope that opinion is one that is reached by the Supreme Court, but the bottom line is the process involved in leaking that letter is something that has to be investigated. No one at the Supreme Court should ever think that their job is safe enough to be able to release an opinion that's a draft. That's what makes the Supreme Court such a great institution here in the United States. And we can't have attacks on the institution from people who will be, who will be given awards by many in the liberal media for doing so.
And your opinion on that?
Same thing, and the sad part about it is it's hard to tell if the court will ever be able to recover from this. It's one of the has one of the highest integrities of any institution in the United States, and what's happened now is going to devastate that integrity, and it's going to be a long time before they're able to build that back. So that's what's more concerning than anything, is just the fact that this was leaked from the start.
Obviously, one of you is from a red state, one of you is from a blue state. How will this affect people from your respective states?
It's hard to tell, to be quite honest with you. And I assume what you're talking about is politically. How's it going to affect the electorate? Is it going to energize one side or suppress the other side? It's hard to tell at this point. I think there's a lot, yet to see what happens. And this is still a draft opinion. We don't even know, how much it's going to be changed. And many of these opinions are changed as they work through the process. So it's so hard to tell at this point. It's still it's way too early to know.
Yeah, I agree with Sam. I think it's too early to tell if this issue begins to overweigh issues like inflation and immigration issues with our southern border and issues of workforce development that we talked about here at Kohl's today. So time will tell, but I do believe that this was something done by someone on the left to try and increase voter turnout in the November elections on this issue, rather than having them focus on the disastrous economic record of the Biden administration.